Greetings! This is I, Tantus Narraband Dracovin, Lord Emperor here at the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're here to enjoy some content. Hey, we're going to be diving again into the world of darkness. If you're joining me on Twitch, thank you for joining me live on Twitch. Follow me, nice. If you're joining me later on YouTube, hey YouTube, always great to see you too. Ring a bell, liking, what else, the other stuff you do, subscribing there. God, my brain today. And of course, my question for today is, what's your experience with the Black Hand? Because it's not something that you really get players playing as very often. It's more time as kind of an antagonistic thing, and it has kind of faded from sight a little bit. It's not really talked about much post-second edition. It definitely was hit on during that time period. But the Black Hand itself really isn't talked about in V20 too much. Not that it's gone. In 5th edition, I don't think it addressed it very well, because the Sabbat has kind of changed a lot. So the question is, how would you use it? How does it exist? I don't know. We'll explore what the Black Hand at least was, and then, the questions about where it is, where it's going, all that kind of stuff. We'll discuss that. But anyway, let's start. I'll start with the thing I start with most of the time, and that's the books you might want to check out in this case. Because there are usually a few number of books that you can check out. The Vampire the Masquerade 2nd edition book, I would recommend, is a good place to start talking about the basics of the Sabbat. That's where we're getting into the Sabbat being defined a little bit better than it was in the earlier editions, the first and revised. Here's where we're actually getting proper ways of making things. It's the thing that, if you're looking at older books, it's hard to recommend things in the first edition unless they didn't reprint them at all. This nice, tinier book here, which is the Black Hand book, I would also recommend. This is The Dirty Secrets of the Black Hand, and it's a book that definitely will give you a bunch of information about it. And of course, the final one here, which is Kane's Chosen the Black Hand. It's for the Sabbat subset. It is from 2nd edition. It's from the early 2000s. We're at least along the right path when it comes to a lot of stuff in things, good defining bits. Alright. What's the Black Hand? That's a really good question, because I've talked about some other groups, like the True Black Hand, and I've talked about the Sabbat, and I've talked about all these other groups here. But the Black Hand, as it exists within the Sabbat, is essentially the Sabbat military, effectively. It's a subset of vampires within the Sabbat that act as their own kind of set, that still support the Sabbat mostly. They were infiltrated by a lot of different things and kind of changed and manipulated because of the infiltration. And that does make a difference in the way that they worked overall. But describing them as the military of the Sabbat is the kind of down dirty of what I would call them. It will give you the basics of them very easily. So it isn't separate. I think that's going to be the important thing about this when we talk about it. It isn't something at all separate from the Sabbat as a whole. It is a portion of it. Alright, my image crashed there. There it goes. Everything went funky for a second there. Technical hiccup. Yay. Where was I? In older time periods, in the original time periods, this is where the Assamite anti-tribute would have been. It would have primarily composed of them, and some other more militant vampires from various other clans. So if you were a very militant, very battle-heavy, very combative vampire, you were going to probably end up and a member of the Sabbat. The Black Hand is where you were going to go. Granted, with everything that's happened with the Assamites and, them changes and evolutions, you're the Banu Hakim, as they are now more referred to as. Well, there aren't as many in there, if they are at all. So, we have a change in the Black Hand. Do they have the same membership? What are their forms? Again, these are questions to ask that we don't necessarily have the answers to. But we can look at how they were. They weren't their own packs. Sabbat, as I've talked about in the past, are organized into smaller packs, which they are groups of them that can try to vie for control of an area. Packs are under larger control, etc., going up the pyramid of control and leadership. But it doesn't mean they couldn't be in packs. Your average Black Hand operative was just part of another pack. And the thing is, it is definitely known that they are a Black Hand member. They are there to basically be the military, the battle-hard part of a pack. They're assigned to it. If you get a temporary pack that's solely of Black Hand operatives, they're more war bands, and referred to as kamuts. Kamuts. I'm probably butchering that name. I apologize. It's the basic military operation of a Black Hand military plan. There are some permanent kamuts called columns. They do exist. It's just not very often. Your average one would just be basically from 2 to 3 to a dozen members that are specifically for dominions, for mission. Most of the time, one-shots, assembled in a dominion for that one-shot mission. And this can be any combination of members. They do tend to keep the individuals that work together previously and are known to work together for missions, but they could change these kamuts up. So it's you'll assemble a kamut for a mission. If it's successful, well, it's there. We can assemble it again to send it out. And they also will be familiar with the territory. They'll know the area, the domain that they're in. So, yeah. They all do start their missions with a vaudery, the blood-sharing ritual and stuff, just to help out. Yeah. Anyway. Once the mission's completed, the disperses, its members go back to their original packs. Again, there are some permanent ones, rare as they are. Just usually it's assigned for certain reasons. And in the time of special need, in the time of need, there is a militia type that a spot leader can muster. This is basically controlled by the hand members who are particularly skilled in wave war. If you're a member of the Black Hand, then you are partial to selecting more members. Basically, Black Hand will keep an eye out on other vampires. Because again, they're intermixing with other packs and stuff. They have an eye on people that would be militant, strong, battle-hardened people that might be called upon and be very useful to add to their mens. You might be called on to join the Hand. The candidates are put through a rigorous series of trials that test cunning, willpower, physical prowess, martial skills. And if you pass those trials, you're inducted into the Black Hand. You receive instructions from the Order, and you are ready for when the Hand calls upon you. So it's sort of like you're in this situation, you're ready for it. So, let's talk about the history of the Black Hand. We'll go through another niche they've got here for it. So, it has its roots in a so-called lost tribe. It was a group of kindred, mainly rogue Assamites, centered around the Weeping Master and his discipline, Daster Anash. They found an ancient mysterious valley in which the Weeping Stone stood. just to signify a couple of these terms, as I always try to, the Weeping Master was an Assamite Methuselah, which is said to have consumed tears from the Weeping Stone and been plagued with visions of the murder of the second generation. And led to the cult that formed the Black Hand. The Lost Tribes is the foundation of that. And of course, Dastur Anush was there for part of forming it. And the Weeping Stone we'll talk about here in a second. So, stone cries drops of blood, which filled the drinker with sorrow, rage, and regret. The Weeping Master believed the stone was the petrified Zilla, preserved by Cain after she had witnessed the slaughter of her brethren by the unfaithful third generation. The Lost Tribe believed by drinking the blood, they severed their ties to the cursed antediluvian and instead formed a covenant with Cain himself, destined to stand by his side in Gehenna and his judgment of the antediluvians and their progeny. The apocalyptic message of the Black Hand resident with is Sabbat, and the Black Hand joined the rogue Anarchs for a short time after the Convention of Thorns, serving as a semi-independent subcult within the sect that mainly acted as assassins. So here's the kind of like basic history where they're positioned and everything. A much older sect, though, had infiltrated the ranks of the Black Hand, the true Black Hand, the Tal Maui Ra. The corruption spread. Half the High Seraphim had forsaken their original mission for the goal of the true Black Hand, serving the antediluvians during Gehenna and to appropriate them by sacrificing their ill-begotten progeny. As the goals of both sects seemed to mirror each other closely, few amidst the sects suspected about the infiltration until many of the Hand had been secretly part of the true Black Hand, including two Seraphim, suddenly vanished after the first spirit nuke hit their hidden headquarters in the Shadowlands during the events that led to the creation of the Sixth Maelstrom. So basically, from leading into 2nd edition into V20, the big events there that are nearly apocalyptic, the Black Hand loses a large chunk of its memberships. And that's why we don't hear about it a lot, because in V20, the organization is... There's probably distrust, there's a lot of issues with it. And then 5th edition, man. Stuff that's going on in the Sabbat, you don't really talk about as much. You have to check out the Sabbat book. There's a little scratching there, so don't mind me. Let's talk about some organization and some ways of doing things for the True Black Hand. The thing about the True Black Hand is never been based upon numbers, and it's another reason that we don't hear about it as much nowadays. They lost a lot of numbers to this kind of infiltration. They're small, several hundred members at most, and had never elaborate organizational structures. It was flexible, and it's, you know, they value the subset's leadership more than tiers of hierarchy. Flexibility is far more valued than the subset's leadership. Anyway. So again, most of its agents were distributed throughout the Sabbat, in other packs, other places, and you know they just act as ordinary members of Sabbat packs and are called into active duty when needed. And when the Black Hand acts, when it's called upon to act, it's probably on the level of that Kumat, that smaller pack that just has a singular purpose. There is never usually a time to be called upon largely. And then they disperse back to the original packs. This is another reason that perhaps we don't hear about it as much. With a lot of the upper leadership there and being so well dispersed, the remaining members are probably just distributed and waiting to some kind of organization. Hard to say. And again, sometimes one or more more than one Kumat is called for complex missions. The recent and successful Sabbat drive up the East Coast was an occasion that called for more than that and had a lot of the factions' uses very heavily. There are two intermediate tiers of command that stand between a common Black Hand member and the Council of the Seraphim. The Dominions, which are the Dukas of the Kamut, the Dominions and the Ducas of their Kamut, if they're on assignment, and the local watch commander, if those are not. So, keep in mind that Dominion is a permanent rank between Seraphim and the rest of the members of the Black Hand. The Seraph are the generals, to answer only to the region of the Sabbat. So, that we're kind of getting into the organization of them a little bit, and I'll kind of break that down a little bit more in a minute. So, yeah. There's a council of 4 powerful Canaanites that rule the Black Hand. They're the Seraphim. They're the top tier. They act as the generals. They serve the region directly. Remember, 2 of them were corrupted by the true Black Hand, or they fell to the true Black Hand. The first Seraph will serve as the highest ranking member of the Seraphim, and 3 others are of his choosing that serve as advisors. Seraph determine when an assassination is being carried out, if there's a request for assistance by Sabbat leaders, how it should be answered, assign dominions as they're needed. They pass judgment on members who are disloyal, or disobedience to their superiors, or they go against the Sabbat's Code of Milan. They also judge their members for accusations of infernalism, and will turn them over to the Sabbat Inquisition. They don't always agree on matters of doctrine, policy, or action, but usually there's a decision made when the dust settles. So, yeah. They kind of follow the mockery that of church hierarchy that Sabbat kind of took, of ecclesiastical titles. They go to higher authority and go to angel names. So, yeah. There is still some acting seraphs. Just to keep that in mind that they exist as the ones that were there during the disappearance. A kind of question. Anyway. So, where's my... As I said, they do serve the region directly. All members of the Black Hand are immune to vinculum when it pertains to direct orders given to them by the Seraph. So that's kind of like the lowest level of blood bond created during the Valkyrie. We've talked about that when we talked a little bit about the Sabbat. Members' hands only answer to the Seraphim when conducting hand business. Other than that, they are not bound to the vinculum and the Sabbat codes of justice. They're immune to that when it pertains to Seraphim orders. Other than that, they are bound by the vinculum and the Sabbat codes of justice like the rest. So if you aren't listening to the Seraphim, you are bound by the codes. Leaders of Sabbat do not like that the hand could wipe them out entirely in one night. They're usually given solo assignments directly from Seraphim, and their messengers are rarely called together for a group. So, under Seraphim, just to go through the rest of the ranks, to give some more organization, are the Dominions. They're permanent rank between them and the rest of the members. They're senior officers, mission commanders. They might oversee a full-scale siege, a small Kamut operations. They're proven leaders with usually a century more of experience that have a good sense of strategy. So they're very important and have responsibilities kind of like that. They oversee recruitment, training, initiation of new members, serve as messengers, intermediaries between the council and members at large. So they have a very important role as permanent members of the Black Hand. They also might represent the Black Hand as an emissary for the leadership. They could be assigned to a particular leader as a military advisor, an aide, or second to one of the Seraphim. we have Ductus or Watch Commanders. Well, we've the seconds. Because there are still some more ranks we can talk about in different things. A second serves Dominion or Serifs as a trusted right hand or second in command, and oversees their orders. Acts kind of like a Templar, serving as a bodyguard, aide, and messenger. A second is a member of their Dominion's pack, if they have one, and shares a vinculum bond with them. A Dominion may take 1 second. Any larger number must be approved by a Seraphim. A Seraphim can have as many as 3 seconds. Seconds can be child A or a loyal packmate. But the duty cannot be imposed. It must be accepted freely. So it's sort of like a advisor, where if you're a Seraphim, you can have up to 3 advisors. If you're a Dominion, you can have 1, though Seraphim could approve you to have more. And it can be just a child that you have, it could be a loyal packmate. But again, you have to basically offer them to be your second, and they have to accept. They don't need to. It is a higher position, but you're kind of going into it there, you know. A Dominion second is slain. In her defense, must answer to the Council of Seraphim as to the cause of their servant's final death. Only if you're cleared of blame can you take another. So if your second gets killed, and it's not your fault, you can get another. Otherwise, it's like, no, he doesn't use that. If a second survives when the Dominion Paras is likewise judgment. If you're found at fault, you're executed as a traitor to your vow. So keep that in mind. Loyalty is very important here. The Ductus. We'll talk about that here. It's a leader of a pack. So this is technically both a position that can exist within the Black Hand or within normal packs. So it exists both here. So if you're a command, you'll have a Ductus there. On the other hand, a Watch Commander, or Field Marshal, is that kind of middle rank of the Black Hand. A leader of the Black Hand operation in a given territory. The senior members in a given city or region, they often hold the rank of Dominion, though sometimes they don't. So that's the difference between a Watch Commander and Dominion. A Watch Commander could be a Dominion, it doesn't necessarily need to. It depends on the territory involved. For major cities, they're always Dominions. But, those as are those assigned to build up Black Hand strength in areas bordering Camarilla-dominated territories. These commanders are appointed by Seraphim for their strong leadership abilities, administration skills, demonstrate political sensitivity. They're not necessarily known as emissaries of the territory they oversee. It's kind of like a Ductus, but fills a more permanent or at least long-term position in similar responsibilities. To basically oversee and lead territorial cell of all Black Hand members residing in an area. They keep an eye on local Sabbat politics, ensure the Black Hand members partake in Valderay with each other, in addition to other rights of their own pack. It's a supreme officer of members on their watch, not assigned to a Kamut. So you can see that this is an important responsibility. And again, it depends on the situation. Most often a domain, not necessarily a domain. Something to keep in mind. Alright, we have the emissary. So the emissary is an operative that acts as a representation and spy when dealing with the common Sabbat. Eyes, ears, and mouth of the Black Hand. Black Hand makes good use of its muscle, but also needs members with social and political acumen that serve the subject level in Sabbat political hierarchy. From councils to backroom deals and all those kind of things, to being connected with local bishops. These are official and sometimes unofficial emissaries to the public face and voice of the subsect's leadership in its and its hidden members. because you're not always going to know if a member of the Black Hand is in your group. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. Yeah, probably the ductus of your pack might know. The other members might not know. Even then, the ductus might not know, because it just could be that someone calls upon their things. So, these emissaries are advisors to local or sect-wide Sabbat leaders. They trade insults with the Inquisitors, maintain a visible political and active presence in Sabbat domains. So they are the, face of the Black Hand. So they are an important member to, show off there. There are a couple lower members. Your average member, though, are known as operatives, agents, Ravka brothers, sisters, even comrades. They don't have a special rank. They're just members of the Black Hand, so keep that in mind. There's Shikar, which are... It's a formal Assamite term for assassin. It's also the eraser, hitman, terminator, sometimes used. These are basically your assassins of the Black Hand. The real skill here isn't their ability to kill their targets. All Black Hand members are capable of killing targets, even with a good considerable age and power, with this right opportunity. What sets these assassins, the Shikar, apart from their fellow Black Hand is their ability to kill their targets on their home ground, even sometimes surrounded by allies or formal defenses, to do so quietly and efficiently, and then just as quietly depart without even raising an alarm. A competent Shikar will be totally unnoticed, even by their intended target. So, yeah. These usually work alone, or with minimal support from a Kamut that is waiting for them outside the target's location. But they're totally on their own if they're discovered. So basically, if a important assassination that you require a Shikar, basically these are lead assassins from the Black Hand to be sent, you might have a Kamut supporting them, just in case. These assassins know it's honorable to die in the cause of Cain, but no assassin wants to earn the honor through stupidity. Their own or anyone else's. If something goes wrong, it's their call whether to continue and improvise, or scrub the mission and regroup. Many of them, most of them, err on the side of caution and survive to plan again, if something goes wrong. So these are the silent killers, and there are a number of known ones. Most of them are Assamite anti-tribu, so most of them are kind of gone. And the one of them was also the Assamite Seraph, and a member of the true Black Hand, and the greatest of all of them, and has disappeared. But yeah. There is one of them that's an acting Seraph, that's a Semiche spy, Shikar, not a scholar. There's a Sombra, Ventru, a Gangrel, a Sombra one, and Malkavian one that we know the names. And Nosferatu, domain one. Many of them have code names too. You have a Remover. They're the brute strength and paramilitary muscle of the Black Hand. They are the Cainites that whom the domain can point at an obstacle, whether a fruitified buncle, a couple of archons, a private security force guarding a prime minister's escape, and tell them to remove the obstacle. They are not subtle. They will have results. That's it. And the most direct, blunt, violent way possible. They're your front line, face your troops in a siege. They're softened Camarilla resistance before regular war parties can arrive. Or go after hard targets. They are the most visible of all Black Hand operatives, and the most respected by their fellow Sabbat, because they just bash in there as the Removers. Don't say they're brainless grunts. Not most of them, at least. There are some that would kind of describe it that. Many have their own positions in the hand, And they've got, combat abilities, courage under fire, and other skills as well. They could be drivers, pilots, sharpshooters, demolition specialists, radio operatives, security system hackers. The leaders of Remover Kamutz need to be able to think fast and give orders that advance the mission operatives and change the plans as needed. So basically, they are either a member of a Kamut or a Kamut of them particularly. These are specialized. You're not just a member of the Black Hand. You are muscle. You are the members of the Black Hand called upon to just crash into stuff. Of course, then the two lowest are, you've got your rookies, which are, if you participated in less than 3 missions, you're still considered a rookie. You're also newly initiative members, would be considered here too. It doesn't matter age, doesn't matter your level of experience. I'm doing little stuff right now. It's done. They're the lowest members of a Kamut or a Watch, so they're kind of at the bottom. And of course, cadets are even below them, which are your, trainees, accepted as candidates but not fully initiated as members. So they're even lower than the rookies. So you have still to go through some boot camp, the trainees, you've gotten past some of the tests. You're a candidate. You're in there, but you have to go through all this training and stuff. So yeah. Anyway, there are some secret practices we'll finish up by talking about today. And that'll end us for the basics on True Black Hand, or the Black Hand. I'm not True Black Hand. Death's Heads, the sliced face and front part of the skull of those assassinated by the Black Hand, made into masks and used in the Dance Macabre, often painted and decorated somewhere. The Dance Macabre is a ritual requiring members to dress as the dead and perform rituals to dance, similar to the Sabbat's Dance Macabre. Death heads are worn during the ritual as horrific music and chanting are always accompanying the dance. Sacrificial offerings. The Black Hand members offer sacrificing living beings to respect Cain and the Antediluvians. Young kindred and or ghouls should be considered lesser or greater sacrifices depending on how many. There is a great ceremony involving which many include chanting, music, special service, or even costume. There's vision seeking, ingesting LSD-laced blood for visions in a way of seeking answers to questions of the soul. The Blood Hunt, which of course is basically what it sounds like, hunting after vampires that are dangerous. Amaranth, which is Diablerie. They have that in their thing. That's a lot that has that a lot. An Oath of Loyalty. Some leaders of the hand insist the operatives reaffirm their commitment to the hand when they're given more important missions. So basically, some of the leaders will have you make an Oath of Loyalty before a very important mission. Spiritual para... it's basically help from transitioning to the path of enlightenment from humanity. Spiritual pro-paductics. I'm butchering that one now. Test of verification. Basically, they don't have secret handshakes, no code words. They use a combination of body, eye, and mouth movements as well as word phrasing to indicate to others that they're in the same organization. So they do have verification of each other that way. There's do little things that, oh, hey, I'm a member of the Black Hand here. Wink, wink, haha, yeah. You recognize it if you're a member of the Black Hand. But that's the Black Hand, who has a status is not in the best shape. They have a temporary leadership in place. They've managed to survive the infiltration of the True Black Hand because the True Black Hand got the crap beat out of them by the, Sixth Great Maelstrom and stuff like that, and the bomb that was there. So the group that had infiltrated them had corrupted them in a way, gone. Now they're left over with, what? some people, beings trying to piece that together, and then the turmoil of what's going on through V20, through 5th edition, to the Sabbat. Well, it's not to say that the Black Hand isn't there anymore. It's to say that they are in bad shape in comparison to where they were. They are an interesting organization, and I would say if you are using them in your current games, ones that are set either through the V20 timeline or even the current V5 timeline of lore, know that they are a broken group to a degree. It doesn't mean that they can't be fearsome and it can't organize things, especially on the Sabbat side of things. But it's not going to be the same way that it was before then. That crushing, that breaking, has certainly caused a lot of issues. And, yeah. Will they recover? Well, it's hard to say. I would definitely recommend diving into the Sabbat lore that has been put out for V5. I haven't had a chance as much to look into it. If you want to kind of see if how much hinted about what's going on. There is stuff going on with Sabbat that's good to go on, and that's, as a whole. But for us, for the Black Hand, they're an interesting thing that existed at one time. We had interesting subculture, perhaps the most organized bits of the Sabbat in a lot of ways sometimes, and probably without them, the Sabbat wouldn't have had as much of a success as they did. They are military. They are spies. They are assassins. Many are gone. But those that remain, anyway, that's it for today. Remember, check out any of my tabletop stuff as I stream it live on Twitch. Check it out on YouTube. I gave those things. The question still remains: your experience with the Black Hand, playing in it, playing against it. I'm interested. What your thoughts are, perhaps, with what's happened to them, the after effects. Do they exist? Are they just joined with the Sabbat now? Those are the questions. If you want to see tabletop stuff, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays, usually between 1 and 2 in the afternoon, depending on life schedule. Saturdays around 11, that's World of Darkness Day, so check that out. Crimson Queen, live play of Pathfinder 1st Edition is my current ongoing live play of a tabletop role-playing game. Check that out, 9 p.m. EST, Wednesdays, very great. And then later on Saturday, which is the day I do World of Darkness stuff with this, is discussing tabletop. It's around 6. Social media, Discord and Twitter, and yeah, check out both of the channels. And I do other stuff, but if you want to check that out, check it out on Twitch, YouTube, those places. Anyway, until the next time though, I bid all of you out there a dark, spooky visit to the world of darkness to come again, and a farewell.